money in relationships is tricky. When should people start talking about debt they have? Let's assume they're dating. At what point do you bring it
Mhm.
up? How do you bring it up? And should personal debt stay personal debt, or should they
You
attack it?
know, whenever I hear this question about when, I think a different question should be asked. You
Okay,
understand?
let's hear it.
So it's not really about when, it's
Hello,
about
everyone. Today we're talking about money. Money, as in your own relationship with your money, debt, credit, but also your partner, and how do you talk about money in relationships? What are some issues that people have with money in marriages? And we're going to talk about mortality, which is a bit of an interesting one. Basically, preparing for death and dying, having that conversation with your parents, yourself about life insurance, wills, and it's a very weighty topic, so I'm not here by myself. My guest today is Fikayo Usman, and she has the chops to talk about this. She is the creator of Fix It Finance, which helps people know better about money. But I'm going to let her do the introduction about what Fix It Finance is and tell us a little bit about herself. How are you doing, Fikayo?
I'm good. How are you, Fokwe?
I am wonderful as well. Tell us a little bit about how you became the money person. What is your journey with personal finances and now helping others figure out their own finances as well?
Well, my journey kind of started just like everybody else. I didn't really know much, and I was curious to know because my finances were a bit of a mess and I had questions. So, in the process of wanting to know, and just because I have a natural affinity for all things money, I work in finance. Finance has always been
Mhm.
something I really enjoy. So I ended up branching into the personal finance space and really taking my time to study what it means to be financially responsible. Thankfully I had, people that had gone ahead of me that I could ask questions. So that really helped a lot. And then in the process of studying, I gained a lot of knowledge, thank God. And I just assumed everybody knew this. And I was one of the last set of people to know until
Yeah.
I started talking to people and people are like, no, nobody knows this. So,
Uh,
so I started sharing on Fix It Finance as much as possible, just basic things that I know that I've learned, that I've experienced along the way that, could help anybody, you know, become better when it comes to finances.
well, that's pretty cool. And yeah, it's financial knowledge. I don't know why it's so. It's almost like it's why do we have to seek it out so much? Why don't we know? Why don't we learn about it in school? Why isn't it more of like life skills? Because like you need
Mm.
everybody's going to have to deal with money. I'm not sure why it's not more easily accessible. Um,
I think it's accessible though. I just think it's
huh.
not until when that saying that says when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Because a
I
lot
didn't
of people
hear.
don't want to hear the truth about finances.
Really?
Yeah, some
Well,
people just don't. They want to live their life and just,
hmm,
do them, which is fine. There's nothing wrong
yeah,
with that, no judgment. A lot of people really
yeah.
don't want to face, like, denial is really sweet when it comes to personal finance. I know because I was there. You
So when you say
understand?
it's accessible, what do you mean? Like it's if you search on the internet, you will find it. Is that or like what do you mean it's accessible?
The knowledge is accessible. So there are a lot of, gurus, teachers,
Mm,
resources, books, videos,
okay.
podcasts. There's so many things. If you want to learn about finances, there's quite a bit
Mm,
out there, but like I
I
always
see.
tell people, find your guru and stick to that person because there's plenty. There's some
Right.
people that'll teach you debt is bad. There's some people that'll teach you debt is good. There's some people that'll teach
Right.
you only
Yeah,
buy
yeah,
real
yeah.
estate. Some people teach you stock is bad. Do you understand? So find the one that
Mm,
makes sense to your situation and just stay
right.
there. Then when
Mm,
you've gleaned all you can from that person, you will know when it's time to move on to the next teacher. You understand?
hmm.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Okay, so you briefly talked about Fix It Finance. I know you have an Instagram page. I know you have a YouTube channel. What is Fix It Finance? How did it start, and what is it right now?
Okay, so Fix It Finance started because, like I said, I was doing a lot of learning
Hmm.
when it comes to personal finance topics. And, when I got married, I was, for lack of a better word, my husband and I were partners when it comes to finances too. So
Hmm.
I'll be telling him some things and he's like, babe, you need to share this thing with the rest of the world. Or like, you really need to let
Hmm.
people know this. I'm like, but everybody knows this already. I don't know why you don't know it.
Hmm.
And he used to laugh. He's like, no, sis, I think you're grossly misunderstood. So that's
Hmm.
basically how it started. We started in our apartment, 2, 3 years ago.
Hmm.
I had a bit of life happen to me, so I took a bit of a long break, but we're coming back
Hmm.
now that like we never left.
Nice. Okay.
But there's more
And
than
like,
enough on there. Like if you wanted to start from the beginning, if you just go and read like previous Instagram posts, you can learn so
okay.
much. Watch some
Okay.
of the videos, you would learn so much. So there's
Mm,
more than enough resources out there to really get you educated, at least to a basic level.
right. And is it primarily Instagram and YouTube, or are there other platforms that I haven't listed?
It's primarily Instagram and YouTube.
Okay.
Social media is plenty work.
I know. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anything. I know.
Especially,
Those
yeah,
two are plenty
especially,
enough. Yeah.
yeah, especially if you're like working full time and you're in ministry, you're in
Mm,
just a human being. So
yeah.
I'm keeping it to those two. I do have Twitter, but it's mostly just for fun.
Mm.
But yes, Instagram and YouTube, follow there. You get all the content there.
Okay. That's helpful. So it's at Fix It Finance in case you're listening. And that's just the way FIX it finance. Okay. So wait, why do you laugh?
It's
The way I
FIX
was
it. I
spelling it.
like that. Yeah.
It, I don't think you can misspell essentially. So it's it. Okay. I know you have an MBA and a CPA. So are those the certifications that allowed you to go deeper in finance as well as your corporate job in corporate finance? Or is it more that interest in finance and needing to figure stuff out that drove you to go learn about finance?
So my MBA and CPA came after. That was more
Oh,
professional.
okay.
Like I had those goals, thank God, since I was like
Mm-hmm,
20. Like I was like,
mm-hmm,
okay, I really wanted to get my MBA and my CPA just because I knew professionally that's really where I wanted to be.
mm-hmm.
But personal finance started way before I started my MBA CPA. So, like I said, I no one can explain the struggle when it comes to finance that a person goes through. You're the only one that
Mm-hmm,
knows where it hurts.
mm-hmm.
Like I've cried over money before, and that I got to a point. I remember I was driving to church, and I don't remember what happened. I think either my brother needed like $1,000 to complete his school fees or something ridiculous. Like it was so small. Okay, not so small because $1,000 is not small money,
I
but it
mean,
was just something that
relatively,
in my
yeah.
mind, I'm like, this should not be this hard. And I
Right,
was
right.
crying because of it. And it wasn't tears of sadness, it was tears of anger. I was ticked. I'm like, okay, I'm never crying for money again. I am going to
Wow.
learn about this money thing.
Mm,
And just the peace of mind that comes with knowing how to handle your finances, I will trade it for nothing else. Because again, like I always say, especially on fixed finance, your prayer points will change when you have a handle of your finances. It's just true. You
yeah.
understand? Like some people's prayer points, and again, no judgment. Oh Lord, help me make rent, help me make this, help me make that.
Mm,
And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just it gets to a point when you
yeah.
get your finances in order and you get things automated and you get on a plan that you won't need to pray about rent because you already know where rent is coming from.
Mm,
Do you understand?
yeah.
Ehen.
Yeah.
So again, this is not, you know, not including people that, for example, don't make enough money or
Right.
stuff like that. That's a completely different scenario. But if you're making
Yeah.
enough money and you're still praying about rent, there's a
Yeah.
solution. Hmm.
Love that.
So,
Okay.
like I said, your prayer points will really change when you get your finances in order. Like the peace of mind when you're spending time with God, safe is God, let's hang out. It's
Not
not
just like
just,
gimme. Yeah.
yeah,
So it was your personal desire to learn that drove you to
yes.
seek out resources, not the degrees. Okay.
Hmm.
All right. So you've talked about getting a hang of your finances and how like when you have a hang of your finances, your prayer points change. To be honest, I agree because I've shared this before, but when my husband and I were thinking of getting a house, when I looked at the prices of houses, I mean, I live in Ontario. At the time of
Mm,
like the average house we were looking at was like at least 500, and
half a
I was like,
million at least.
500,000. How are people finding this money? Who like
Hmm.
where what are we going to use to
Where?
get
What are people doing?
exactly what are people doing? One of my close friends bought a house and I was like, fuck boy, I beg you, don't compare yourself to this one.
Mm,
Like I love her, but I felt like maybe her parents gave her a wedding present. I don't know the situation of things. But then we just there researching a bit more. So that okay, it's just 5% you need to raise to do down payment. I was also afraid of mortgage. You were saying earlier that different gurus would
mm.
tell you debt is good, debt is bad. I was afraid of mortgage. It was being Nigerian. You build your house, you build your house. Which one is mortgage?
Yes.
Um, so I didn't understand that. My prayer point was at the time, speaking of prayer points, was God, please send helpers of destiny
Yes, kid.
to,
Show us where the
to
treasure is.
give us the house. No. to give us the house because I just did not like understand how we would raise the money for a house. But like knowledge can change your prayer points is essentially what
Big
this is.
time.
Just start
Mm-hmm.
reading, realize that okay, it's just 5%. So we can save I think it was like maybe I don't know math, I don't do public math is how I was saying it. But I
Mm.
think this like it was like 25,000 or something at the time. Still a lot of money, but more
Mm-hmm.
doable than 500,000 in terms of like having to
Mm-hmm.
save. So like it's very true that information will change your life for sure. And it's kind of why we're
Mm-hmm.
doing this. So speaking of information, is there a way to be financially literate, like a standard set of steps? And I know that you do, and you did on your YouTube um Dave Ramsey's 7 baby steps or
Baby
whatever
steps,
to
yeah.
financial literacy. So I guess Dave Ramsey is your own guru. Is he your guru?
Well, it's again, remember how I mentioned as you start, your teachers
Mhm.
change as you evolve.
That's true.
You
That's
understand?
true.
So he was definitely part of my foundation, like my
Hmm.
learning base for sure.
Mm.
But as you know, he doesn't believe in some things, but
Right.
in my process of researching those things, I'm like, okay, I'm okay
Mhm.
with that. I'm comfortable with that.
Okay.
So now I'm
Okay.
learning from different teachers, you understand? So
People. Right.
that's why I said, choose your guru for the season you are in. Like
Mm.
stay there, glean as much as you can. For
Yeah.
those who don't know the word glean,
Glean, they will
I don't know,
learn. You can
suck up,
Google it. Yeah.
like
Absorb
eat,
as much as you can. Yeah.
absorb, thank you,
Very
as
good.
much as
Yeah.
you can from that
Yeah.
teacher. Apply
Yeah.
every single thing you can. And then as you evolve, as you become, more courageous and braver and bolder,
Mhm.
more
Mhm.
confident in your financial ability,
Right.
then you can begin to change your teachers and begin to, really find who you are as a person financially.
Okay. Sounds good. So now back to the original thing. Is there a set way to become financially literate, or are there some foundational things that a financially literate person should have?
Mm. So, first question, is there a set way? I don't think there's a set way. However, just like anything worth learning, you start with the
Mhm.
basics.
Okay.
For example, I'm a Christian. So, if you want to know God, you read your Bible, you pray every day. That's
The
standard,
basics.
basic.
Yeah.
You understand? So same thing with financial literacy. Pick a book, read it. If you want to learn how to, buy your first home, find a book or a podcast or something, listen to that, learn all you can from that, and then apply it to your situation. So one
Mhm.
thing I always tell people is your teachers or the people you are learning from, they don't
Mhm.
control your life. You understand? What you're doing
Yes.
is you're getting information and you
Mhm.
choose how to apply it. You can't wake up tomorrow and say, Dave Ramsey said you should not, I don't know,
You
just say,
should not have
okay,
any
not even
debts.
Dave
Yeah.
Ramsey. This
Yeah.
teacher said you should not buy a house that
Yeah.
only rent for the rest of your life because renting is bad. So that's what you're doing.
Mine
Sis,
is bad. Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
good. I don't feel sorry for you. But you know what I mean? Like, don't
Yeah.
make sure you learn from your teachers and then apply it to your life. Like, because at the end of the day,
Mhm.
whatever decision you're making is affecting you, not your teacher.
Exactly. You bear the consequences. Yes.
Exactly. So make
Yeah.
sure, so in terms of, I think the first question was like a set way. So what I would
Yeah.
say is start with the basics. For example, on Fix It Finance, I have a post that talks about, different financial books you can read to have a really good foundation of things. So start from there.
Mhm.
Something like that. Pick up a whole bunch of books on personal finance. There's Budgeting for Dummies at the
Mhm.
library.
Mhm.
Even though I don't really like that title, but it gets the
Yeah.
message.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
you know, you
So
also have to be honest with yourself
okay.
that you don't know.
Mm.
Because some people come, so someone like me, I'm in finance. I've worked in finance all my life. Well, not all my
Mhm.
life, all my working life, right?
Mhm.
I could have been like, I know this thing.
Mm.
I'm in finance, so I know this, and not really humbled myself to learn. And I'll
Right.
still be struggling today unnecessarily. You
Right.
understand?
Yeah.
So sometimes, even if you know, maybe put aside what you, not put aside, like park it, learn, and then put everything together. Be willing
Mhm.
to, be willing to unlearn, relearn. You understand? And go from there.
Mhm. Okay. So, in the spirit of being honest with ourselves, let's assume that people are busy slash lazy and they're not going to read books, at least right now. So, what are
Hmm.
some high level things people need to know about finance? Is it you must have a budget to at least understand where your money is going? Is it start with having an emergency fund so that one emergency doesn't cripple you? Is it if you are making X amount of money, be saving for a house? Like,
Hmm.
what are some potential
Well,
start?
someone like me, I would highly recommend starting with, the Dave Ramsey baby steps, at least baby steps one, two, three.
Okay.
It's really, how can I put this?
What are those steps, by the
If
way?
I could, yeah, I'll talk about it. If I could, I've researched, well, I've researched, applied, seen a
Mm-hmm.
lot of gurus out there and what they
Mm-hmm.
recommend.
Mm-hmm.
His methods, at least the first three baby steps, there's really nothing like it out there. You
Okay.
understand? Really nothing like it. So the very first is baby step one, which talks about saving $1,000. Right?
Okay.
Whatever you can, do what you can to save $1,000. Now,
Mm-hmm.
someone like me, again, that's why I said you need to apply it to your
Mm-hmm.
situation. At the time when I started, I had room on my line of credit and my credit card, right?
Okay.
That was up to $1,000. So I was like, fine, I have $1,000. Don't
Okay.
necessarily do it that way. But I'm just letting you know at the end of the day, you need to apply to yourself. You
Situation. Yeah.
understand? So
Yeah.
baby step two is to pay off all debt, all non-mortgage debt, right?
Okay.
Like no saving, no nothing, pay off all non-mortgage debt. Now, some people really hate that advice. It worked
Okay.
for me, right?
Okay.
Because so the only thing I did not stop was I was getting a match at my work. So you know how they match your, so if you put in 3%, they'll put in 3%, like a
For
pay.
RRSP. Yeah.
Yes, RRSP, TFSC. So I was getting a match at work. So I didn't stop that. That's the only saving I did not stop. But
Okay.
everything else, my husband and I, we put all our effort into paying off all our debts. It took us less than
Mm-hmm.
2 years, to God be the glory. We paid off everything. So line of credit, credit card,
Nice.
uh, personal loans,
Yeah.
we didn't have that many, but
Mm-hmm.
like almost 40K,
Wow. In two
right?
years or less than 2 years.
And we were not making that much money. Oh.
Kudos to you. Yeah.
Between the two of us, we were making less than $100,000. Let's start
Wow.
from
And you
there.
paid off
Yes.
40K. That's good.
That's what I'm
Wow.
saying. The reason I really like that is because it forces you to sacrifice. Like you really
Yes.
get down to the nitty gritty. There's nothing we didn't cancel. There's nothing we didn't stop doing.
Subscriptions,
You
unnecessary
understand? We did not
awoke.
have we
Yes.
haven't had cable like we got because we had just got a condo at that
Uh-huh.
time, and we
Hmm.
got free cable for a year. After the year, we didn't renew it. We still don't have cable to this day because we
Honestly,
just found we
who,
don't need it.
who watches cable? It was like,
Yeah, but some
I don't.
people get it because they just assume it's supposed to be gotten. You
Oh
know,
wow.
so
Okay.
yeah, you really get to the nitty gritty of what is needed and what is not.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
understand? You really
Yeah.
learn sacrifice. And for me, the discipline that we both gained from that season, we still use it
Mm-hmm.
to this day. Like some of the projects
Wow.
we are saving for, working on,
Yeah.
it's that same discipline we learned at that time that we're still
Yeah.
applying to this day.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons I really, really like it. It forces you
Mhm.
to do the work.
Yeah.
You understand? And
Yeah.
then baby step three is saving an emergency fund of 3 to 6 months of expenses. You understand? So
Mm-hmm.
someone like me, again, that's why I say apply to yourself. I
Yeah.
simplified it. I just always say at least 5 to 10 grand per person in the house.
Mm-hmm.
So at
Right.
least
For
ten
sure.
thousand dollars. So if you're two people, at least
Yeah.
20, just
Yeah.
to be safe. Again,
Yeah.
count your household expenses. If your household
Right.
expenses in a month is more than that, then save a little more. If it's less, you can
Right.
save a little less. So
Yeah.
calculate all your, and because we had shrunk our expenses to next to nothing.
Mm. Yeah.
So three to
Yeah.
6 months of expenses was not that much for us. But I
Yeah.
personally was comfortable with 20, so that's what we did at that time.
Right. That is so
Hmm.
helpful. Thank you for highlighting those three. So you know what? Find your guru, but if you don't know where to start, at least start with those ones.
Yeah. Oh,
Save,
if I could add something, the Dave
please go
Ramsey
ahead.
podcast, it's
Hmm.
a lot of motivation. So if you're just starting out and you need that extra fire, extra, like watch it on YouTube, watch it on or listen to it on Apple Podcasts. It will really get you motivated. One of the reasons I like it is you will see people just like yourself
Yes,
doing big
in
things
different
with money.
spheres, doing
Thank
different
you.
things with money. Oh my
Thank you.
goodness.
When you
I
hear, if say you're making, like I was saying, we're not making that much. Let's say we're making 100,000, and you hear people that
yes,
are making 60 are paying off 70K. Excuse,
yeah,
what's your
yeah.
excuse?
Or people that are
uh
making 300 and have 1 million in debt. Sounds wild,
Thank
but there's
you.
yeah,
Yes, it
yeah,
happens a lot. People that are
yeah,
making, the wife is making 250K, the husband is making
yeah,
300, and yet
yeah.
their debt is like, yes. So,
Mountain, yeah,
yes.
You will
You really
find
get to
also.
see,
Yeah,
if anything, like I always say this thing on fixing finance, right? That um it's not about how much you make, it's how well you manage what you make. We
absolutely.
really learned that lesson through that process. You
Hmm.
understand? Because even when we started making more, our lifestyle did not automatically upgrade.
Inflate, yes.
Yes,
Yes.
it did not. Even if I wanted it to, the person I married
I'm
was
like,
like, no.
that's so
So,
good. Yeah. So thank you. So definitely, if you need the motivation to start, the Ramsey is
mm,
very great. I love how he lays down the hammer. Sometimes he's also
he
kind
does.
and like, and you hear it in him that he's seen all sorts. And it's really,
Hmm.
if you're looking for someone that has your own experience or your own situation, whether that's like student loan or like a reckless
Hmm.
loan or some other kind of thing, you will find them and you hear the
And
tactics. So
you
it's
see
very
that you're not that bad, because sometimes
yes,
you tend to feel
yes,
like, oh, my situation, I can never get out of this. I have 60,000 in student loans, it can't
yes.
be gone. And then you see people
Hmm.
paying off 300 in student loan, then
Yeah.
you humble yourself and say, okay, maybe there's hope.
There's hope after all. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's so good. Thank you for that. So earlier on, you were talking about, the partnership between you and your husband and how you came
Mm.
together to pay. Thank you for actually sharing specific numbers. Pay 40K in 2 years with 100K salary. That requires a
Was it up to
togetherness
100K, sister? I
less
wish.
than less than 100K joint salary.
Hmm.
Wow, that's interesting. Very, very deliberate effort.
Yes.
And it takes that togetherness of like, okay, this is our debt. Now, money in relationships is tricky. When should people start talking about debt they have? Let's assume they're dating. At what point do you bring it
Hmm.
up? How do you bring it up? And should personal debt stay personal debt? Or should they
You
attack it?
know, whenever I hear this question about when, I think a different question should be asked. You
Okay,
understand?
let's hear it.
So it's not really about when, it's about who. And I say
Okay.
that in the sense of, so you and I, Fopsy, for
Hmm.
example, we know each other a bit, like
Yes.
you're a sensible person, quite
Yes.
responsible. There's some discussions I can easily have with you because you are you.
Mm.
I've studied you, I've been
Right.
observant, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
whether we've known each other for 1 month or we've known each other for 10 years, I can have a
Hmm.
conversation with you about mortgage, money, whatever, because I know you're
Yes.
not someone that you're mature enough to handle that conversation.
Mm.
So I
That's
think it's
so
more about the
good.
who. Yeah, like if
Hmm.
for example with my my chief finance officer, as I call him,
Okay, husband. Yes. Go
eh,
ahead.
my chief financial officer, like when we first started talking, right? One
Mm-hmm.
of the things I value the most about my husband, and I say this everywhere I go, is his mind. Like the moment my
Mm.
husband opened his mouth, I was like, oh, thank you, Jesus. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Because most times you will see guys that are cute and, they are rich or they are balling, driving G-Wagon
Mm-hmm.
and everything. And then they open their mouth and I just like, okay, oh, well, thank God for your financial. You understand?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
for me, it's more of the who, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
if you're dealing with someone that's mature, if you're dealing with
Mm-hmm.
someone that is, we're talking in marriage here, we're talking
Yeah.
partnership, we're not talking dating. You understand? While you're dating, that's what you're looking for. That's what you're studying for. Okay, is this person mature enough to handle mature conversations? Like because you're going
Oh,
to have mature conversations.
right, right,
Aside from
right.
money, you're going to have to talk about, okay, your mother spoke to me anyhow yesterday. I did not like
Mm.
it. You're going to have to talk about, excuse me, sir, this body odor you are having, or excuse me, ma.
Yeah,
It's mature
it's
conversations. So
maturity. Oh, I
if you
love
can't
that.
have yeah, if you can't have mature conversations with this person, it doesn't matter whether you're dating 1 month or 3 years. The money conversation is still not going to be okay. You
Wow.
understand? If the person cannot handle it, so there's really no
Yeah.
point. So for me, I say pay more attention to the who, like
Hmm.
observe. You
So,
understand? Can you
yeah,
have mature conversations with this person? Because you're going to have to do a lot of that in marriage.
yeah. Oh, I love that. And it's a very great question because it's almost like, what's the point of having these deep conversations with somebody that isn't going to handle
Yeah,
it?
that's
Like,
not just not there. you know
mm,
and there's
yeah,
nothing wrong if you're not there mentally or maturally.
maturity wise, yes, yes,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
If you're not there,
yeah,
that's okay, but just know who you're dealing with, right?
mm,
Like before I got married to my husband, I was friends with a lot of guys. You understand? Like I knew guys. It's just you
right,
just know that okay, the kind of conversations I want to have. So, for example, my husband and I, before we got married, we used to do this thing, like, and I recommend it to couples, especially when they are still dating, because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you run out of topics, right? So we used to do this
Yeah.
thing called scenario planning. Again, that's
Okay.
my
Okay.
finance slash, ABA slash business
Bring it
background coming in.
on. Yeah.
So, like, we'll be, when you're gisting at night or during the day, you're
Mm-hmm.
just, because you like each other. I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
so what if, I
Yeah.
have younger brothers. What if they
Mm-hmm.
decide, or God forbid, something happens and they have to come live with us for the next 10 years?
Yeah.
What would you do? That's scenario planning. Because it's a
Mm-hmm.
possibility. What if,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
give birth and, I'm unable, like, it's scenario planning. What if tomorrow I start making, I don't know, $1 million? Would
Yeah.
you be willing to stay at home and vice
Yeah.
versa? There's
Yeah.
so many. That's called scenario
Yeah.
planning. So
Yeah.
those are the areas where you can really test, for lack of a better word, for the maturity level
Oh, I
to
love
see
it.
how
I think it,
this person
yeah.
responds to those questions. Because you can bring up scenarios. For example, you're someone who has, you have endometriosis, you have PCOS. They've told you may not be
Mm-hmm.
able to born. What if we born?
Right.
Or what if
Yes.
we, like, bring it out? That in scenario planning, you get to really see the depth of the person you're about to be with.
You're exploring their mind, how they think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You're exploring the corners that they don't show you until you're inside the marriage.
Yeah. So these are some of the ways you can get to ask better questions. So for me, right, yours was scenario planning, which is a really great one. Mine, I just had a book with lots of questions. I had lots of things. What are
The
your
same
thoughts on
thing.
adoption? What are your thoughts
Yeah.
on family staying with us? Like, so things like that where we had those
Mm-hmm.
conversations as well. Oh, that's
Yeah.
very good. So then you are gauging maturity. So at some point where you think this person's mature enough, would you say at least sometime during dating before engagement, tell them you have a serious student loan, or you're saying forget about when,
Um,
just
no, I think you should discuss all those things beforehand. How Before you even reach the student loan question, first, how are
Mhm,
you going to manage your finances? One of the things we
mhm,
have on Fix It Finances, we have conversations like this with people and
mhm.
couples. One of my favorite ones is the Ajayis.
I love it
And
too. I watched it too. Yeah,
right? Another one
yeah.
that I really like is the TVs, right? Two
Oh,
couples
okay.
around the exact same age slash
Right.
time of life. They manage their
Mhm,
finances differently, yet everyone is
okay.
at peace. You understand? Everyone understands what's happening inside. For example,
Mhm,
the Ajayis, for example, they don't necessarily merge their finances, but they hold each other accountable. Because some people say, my money is my money, your money is your money. So for me, it doesn't matter. The fact is, so long as I'm married, I get to have a say. You can't buy Chanel bag when we are saying we want to buy house. Whether it's your money or it's
right.
my money,
Yeah,
we need to be. You understand? So
yeah.
I think I don't even remember what we talked when we started and how we
We're
got
talking
here.
about scenarios and how people manage their money, but finish the thought nonetheless.
Yeah, but like for real, I think for me, it's a matter of have those questions beforehand. So how would
Okay.
we manage our finances? Are you the kind of
Okay.
person you don't want me to ask you question? You just want to give
Okay.
me 1,000 a month and then move on your way. Because the Bible talks about. Sorry, am I allowed to talk about the Bible?
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
Oh, okay, cool.
I am very Christian. This is my
Okay,
life on my show. So
also,
yes,
because the Bible talks about the two being naked and unashamed,
yes.
right? So again, even if you're managing your finances, you still need to be naked and unashamed with me in that area, and vice
Hmm.
versa. You understand? So even if we're doing
Yes.
separate bank accounts, we still need to be
Yes.
naked and unashamed with each other in
Right.
everything.
Right. Right.
So including finances. So those are the
Hmm.
kind of questions you will ask ahead of time. Even if we're not gonna, do joint account or merge our finances, you still need to be able to be accountable. And accountable is
Hmm.
not necessarily me telling you what to do with your money. You
Right.
understand? It just means at
Yeah.
the end of the day, whether we merge or we don't merge, we still need to be naked and unashamed with each other.
I would say personally, when once you've gotten a hang of the person, you see that they're mature. Sometime before engagement, just like come clean about how you manage your money,
Definitely.
what you've done in the past with it. If you have maybe, I don't know, if when would
If
I
you
tell
have
somebody
debt,
if I had a trust fund, when would I tell them, or like a massive inheritance? I don't know though.
I think again, the Bible talks about don't cast your pearl before swine. So you should have tested thoroughly if this person is swine.
Hmm.
And if
Hmm.
they are, do not tell them. But if they are not, then sure, go ahead.
And if they are
Because
swine, you should not be with them.
exactly, that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
But for real, like if in fact you have, for example, someone like my husband and I were good examples,
Hmm.
opposite side of the tracks, like he always jokes because my father passed away in 2020. He's always joking when I say I want to do something big, it's like, don't worry, I'm just waiting on that your inheritance check till tomorrow. This guy, but yeah, he's just joking. But for real, because
Mhm.
someone like myself, when my dad passed away, my siblings and I, we did get an inheritance,
Okay.
granted in Nigeria, but we did
Hmm.
get an inheritance. Now,
Hmm.
we because my husband knows the kind of background I'm from,
Right.
he was aware of the fact that, I'm not exactly from a quote unquote poor background, right?
Okay.
We're not billionaires either, but at the same
Hmm.
time, we're not poor. So, he
Right.
was well aware ahead of time that, okay, there's a
Hmm.
possibility, that something may arise from there,
Sure.
but we don't plan based on that. You understand?
No problem. Money you don't have. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, you understand?
Yeah.
It's when someone is already looking at, excuse, when is daddy going to, or mommy, that's when you know that the person you're
Right.
with, you gotta check it.
Yeah. But somebody told me to ask you, is it wise for couples to merge their finances before they're married, maybe when they're engaged?
No, absolutely not. Do
Tell
not
me
do
why.
it. Several reasons. An engagement is still just that. It can be broken. You
Okay.
understand? An
Yeah.
engagement is still just that. An engagement can be broken. A marriage can be broken too, but it's very different under very different circumstances. Now there's law
Mm-hmm.
protecting both of you. You
Mm-hmm.
understand? But obviously, if you've been living together and whatnot, then of course you fall under common law. That's a whole nother. But let's assume, just to keep it simple, you were
Let's
not
do
living
marriage.
together
Yeah.
before you got married. You're
Mm-hmm.
both engaged, and then you're looking to get married and moving together.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do it, please. You can split bills and even start working on projects together, but
Okay.
don't merge your finances before marriage.
So what about if they're buying a house together that they plan to
Don't
move
do
in when they
it.
get
Don't buy a house with someone you're not married to. Don't do it.
interesting?
Do
Okay.
not do
Even
it.
if they're engaged, don't do that still.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Tell me why. You
Don't
still
do it. Okay.
still part of this
Again,
engagement. Because it
because
feels like a
relation.
commitment already.
Well,
No?
engagement is not really. Engagement is a commitment to commit. You understand? It's a promise to
Yes.
commit. It's not yet the commitment.
Promise to commit. Yes.
So until the
Yeah.
commitment has been signed, sealed, delivered, don't do it,
Mm-hmm.
because what's going to happen is it's basically two friends buying a house. The law is not going to recognize anything when it comes to that house. You understand?
Right.
And one
Yeah.
thing is, if relationships or if the relationship breaks, one thing, the best of man is still man. Oh.
Yeah.
People get
Yeah.
real nasty or can
Mm.
get real nasty. You understand? And it's just
Yeah.
the reality of life. Obviously, for example, if you're breaking an engagement, I don't know, because your family decided they don't want you to marry this person. The other
Yeah.
person can be very bitter and decide to retaliate.
Hmm.
You understand? So there are too many too many factors that could go wrong before
Yeah.
marriage. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
After marriage, there's laws that protect each party. You
Right.
get. But before marriage, you're basically on your own. So, and you're gonna have to deal with that mess together. Have you ever had to
Yeah.
call a lawyer for your boyfriend before? It's not fun.
Yeah. 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 Okay. So wait till you're married, and all the more reason to not be engaged forever.
Mhm.
Engagement is a promise to marry, season to prepare for marriage. So get
Mm,
engaged, plan, get counseling, and get married, and you have the rest of your lives to invest together. Okay,
exactly.
let's talk about marriage. When we were talking earlier, you were saying that money is one of the top reasons why couples get divorced or separated or have issues. And I wanted to really understand what that means. So I looked up a couple different reasons, like what it really means when they say money is one of the top causes. And it's things like high levels of debt, especially if one partner is hiding it from the other person,
Mm-hmm.
different spending habits or financial priorities, which can lead to arguments or feelings of resentment, aka one person is
Yeah.
buying massive things, lack of financial transparency or communication, such as keeping separate bank accounts or not discussing major financial decisions,
Mm-hmm.
financial infidelity, such as hiding purchases or secret accounts from one partner,
Hmm.
differences in earning potential or income, which can create power imbalances in the relationship, conflicts
Mm-hmm.
over how to budget or save money, especially if one partner is more frugal than the other, disagreements over financial support for family members, such as sending money to parents, providing assistance to adult children, stress and anxiety caused by financial insecurity, such as job loss or
Mm-hmm.
unexpected expenses. And it goes on. So, as I was reading through, one of the things that really stood out to me is that they all boil down to lack of trust. And money is one of those things that can undo the unity that you're supposed to have as a couple
Big time.
um, in the marriage. So it manifests as the lack of unity, it manifests as lack of trust, hiding purchases and all of that. I realized that a lot of old wives' tales kind of say, as a woman, have vex money. Like money that you keep that if anything happens, you can bank on. But like that is financial infidelity, I would say, like
Mm.
hiding things from your partner. So my question
Well,
is,
context matters for that one, Sha, but continue.
no, finish. Well, actually, let me finish my question and then I'll actually get to what you mean by context matters. Have you had in your coaching people situations where they come to you for money issues, but you send them to counseling instead?
Hmm. Well, most of the people I deal with are usually early marriage or pre-marriage. So,
Okay.
and then the ones that are later in life that I've dealt with are looking more at retirement planning. So they're already together. So
Okay.
I've not really had to send anybody to counseling because most people at the end of the day, whatever money issues they're having, they're able to talk through it.
Okay.
So
Okay.
again, that's what I mean by the who matters because the two
Mm-hmm.
people are, for lack of a better word, willing and mature enough to
Mm-hmm.
have those difficult conversations. You
Right.
understand? Yeah. So
Okay. Now,
I think I wanted to go back to that context matters,
yeah,
especially the old
please.
wives' tales, our
Yeah.
parents' generation, for example, or the generation
Yeah.
before them. The
Yeah.
main reason is there was a power imbalance, right? Because men controlled everything. Some women weren't
Mm-hmm.
even allowed to work, so they had to, for lack
Right.
of a better word, have vex money. It's unlike today where women are more in control of their destinies to a large extent.
Mm.
You
Yeah.
understand? In most homes, safe is the woman that makes more.
Oh,
You
yeah.
get so
Yeah.
back then they literally had to do that to survive. So context matters
Mhm.
in some of those, in especially that one in particular. You get.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, don't just take advice as it is. Like understand the backstory of why people had to have vex money essentially, and
Mm-hmm.
even people in abusive situations where financial abuse, like the power differential, like you said, where they don't have access to money, all the more reason to have some money to take care of yourself. Although in that
Yeah.
case,
Well,
marriage is
I
working
was
as
I was gonna say that one is a whole that's
marriage is not
that
working.
matter is very different.
Yeah.
That one is completely different. But even if you're a person that, for example, one thing I always say, like, is, and I always go back to being naked and unashamed with each other.
Right.
If, for example, I'll give you an example. A girl grew up with not necessarily a single mom, but a mom that was made a single mom just because of circumstance. Her
Hmm.
dad was not necessarily there. You understand?
Yeah.
The mom had to take care of her, blah, blah, blah. So let's just say her dad was there, but not really there.
Right.
And the mom, she saw the struggle that her mom
Yeah.
went through. So now she's
Yeah.
in marriage and she tells her husband,
Mm.
look here, I need to see at least $20,000 per day in this account for me to have peace of mind. It's a legit thing and it's something you can ask for as a person in a marriage. And that husband
Twenty
will be
thousand
extremely
dollars.
unwise. No, I'm just using that as an example.
Right. Okay.
She can just say, because of the fear that has been inbuilt in her because of what she saw as a child, she
Yeah.
just wants to set money aside for her own peace of mind. Doesn't mean
That
she
makes
doesn't
sense.
trust the guy. Doesn't mean
Yeah.
she's not in love with him. Doesn't mean anything.
Mhm.
It's just the trauma is there and she just
Yeah.
for her peace of mind wants to see that money. There are people like that. The guy
Mm.
will be very unwise to say, what's the big deal? I will never do that to you. You understand? So that's what I mean by
Right.
you need to be able to be naked and unashamed with each other. We're all coming with different things that the other knows nothing about. You get?
Right.
So for
Yeah.
the sake of peace of mind, sometimes you do some things that are not necessarily logical. Like Dave Ramsey will talk about how I think he always makes this joke that he has life insurance even though he doesn't need it because his wife wants him to have it for her peace of
Uh,
mind.
yeah.
You understand? So they're just things that come with because you don't know people's money experiences, right?
And
Or
money
how they
doesn't
grew up.
exist in a vacuum. Like the money doesn't
Ex-
exist in a vacuum. So people have things that emotional part. Money is
Attachment, yes.
attachment. Exactly. That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so you just, that's why, as much as possible, some of the issues you mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
are they real? Yes. Are they there? Yes. However, the beauty of coming together as a couple is to be able to have those conversations and be
Mm.
truly vulnerable and, for lack of a better word, naked and unashamed with each other and say, hey, I can't really explain this for this particular reason. I just really like to see us have an emergency fund that is big, fat, and juicy. Do we need this much? Probably not. But for my peace of mind, let's have it. You understand?
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, there are different ways to kind of go about the history or just the, for lack of a better word, baggage that sometimes
Right.
we bring into relationships.
When it comes to money. Well, that's so helpful. Thank you for that. Now, speaking of being naked and unashamed, do you believe in prenups? Do you think they're
Hmm.
necessary? And how can couples have these conversations respectfully? This was a question for you
Mm,
that I asked. Yeah.
well, sometimes we like to ask these questions as if there's so much sentiment. Do I believe in prenup? Is just a financial matter. It's not
Okay.
a, you understand, be
Yeah.
or end all of things. Now, for me, again, context matters. If both of
Okay.
you are bringing nothing into the marriage, what are you prenuping for?
That's fair. Yeah.
You're about to build together. You
Right.
understand? So either
Yeah.
way, even if you signed a prenup when you both have nothing, when you get into the
Hmm.
marriage, because you built it together, you're still going to split it 50-50. God forbid if anything happens. The
Yeah.
number one area I usually recommend for prenups is when one party is coming in unnecessarily larger than the other. You
Mm.
understand? So for
Yeah.
example, um, let's say the girl is the daughter of a multi-billionaire. Her father is giving her $100 million as her pin money just because.
Jeez. Okay. Yeah.
Which happens all the time because some dads don't want their daughter to ever struggle for money, or
Mm.
his you understand. So
Yeah.
sometimes she's coming in or he's coming in with a lot of money or a lot of
Right.
assets for whatever
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah.
So again, it goes back to that maturity conversation, right? If that's what's going to give the person peace of mind, for you to show that, okay, I'm not necessarily with you for this, but again,
Mhm.
that doesn't still mean you're just going to, for lack of a better word, do your own thing and we won't keep each other accountable anyways.
Right. You're not.
We're still going to
Mm.
be married.
Yeah. Yeah. You're not solo.
you
Yeah.
know? So that's usually when I would recommend a prenup, when one party is, unequally, like it's not balanced at all,
Mm.
and for the sake of your own, peace of mind, you want to do that.
Hmm. Do you think there's a Christian perspective on prenups in the sense that should does that so you have that 100 million, right? If if you want to buy a house, are we still going to need to save up to raise down payment, or are you just supposed to bring the funds from your 100 million? Like,
Mm,
does that mean that that money stays yours
mm.
and we'll have to be struggling together when I know you have 100 million?
Well, that's the conversation you both have to have. So, if, for example, you're getting married and this person considers that money their own, you as a person should consider if you want to marry the person.
Hmm.
Because clearly you have no say where that 100 million is concerned. And is that something you can live with? If it is, go ahead. If it's not, move on. So
Okay.
there's really, it's not, I always say, it's not about being faultless. We all have
Yeah.
faults. It's about
Yeah.
being falseless, as in be true to yourself. If you're the kind of person,
Mm,
if your wife
yeah.
has 100 million, you can't sleep at night, you want to spend it with her, have the conversation. If she's not of that mind, then that's not the person for you. Move on. However, if she's the kind of person that says, of course, when we marry, the two of us have the money. I've also seen situations where, for example, the wife gets the 100 million, she doesn't even tell the guy, and they struggle to save up to buy a house. And then later, years into the marriage, I think like how many kids, maybe 3 kids into it, the guy found out she has 100 million chilling, and he did not know. He
I
was
think
so
it's
upset.
somehow. Like,
It is. It is. He was so upset. He felt so betrayed, which makes sense because here you are
yeah.
struggling, literally going up and down, struggling to find
Yeah.
money for a house, and your wife is chilling on $100 million.
Yeah.
Again, it's not about being faultless. It's about being falseless. Be naked and unashamed with each other. And if you cannot be naked and unashamed with this person, chances are this is not your last bus stop. This is not where you
Yeah.
should be.
There will be other, yes, chances are that you should have a serious conversation about it, because in the case of the one where we've bought houses, we've raised things together, and you've been pretending as if you did not have money, and then I find out after three entire
Mm-hmm.
humans have been created together, it's just like it's a major lack of trust, though. It's
It is.
like we're going to
It
have
is.
to deal with it.
That
Like I
that
can't even
those
imagine.
that's a counseling situation for
Yeah,
sure.
every now and then when we have to raise a down payment for something, my husband will look at me, but we didn't have money anyway. I'm like, which money? Which money am I supposed to have anyway? So I'm asking now, so you will say I didn't ask. So that's not
Because
how.
yeah, actually, I've actually seen that the girl was
Yeah,
like, "You didn't ask," and the guy's like, "What? I need to ask."
yeah, yeah, for
Yes.
sure. Okay. Let's talk about money in relationship to family members.
Mm.
In terms of sending money to family to support them, to encourage them or whatever, whether it's like needed or just more of like you being an awesome child, what factors should people be considering to balance, benevolence with building their own financial
Wisdom.
lives? So yeah.
Mm. So I know some people don't necessarily like me for this. Some, especially some Nigerian adults. What is
They don't
it?
like what?
They don't necessarily like me for this.
Okay.
But I've seen again, and again, maybe it's because of some of the things I've seen. I've literally seen family members that quite literally killed themselves in the name of wanting to help family.
Yeah.
You understand? Quite
Yeah.
literally. And there's no Nigerian that can tell me they've not seen people like that work for
Right.
everybody else except themselves,
Yeah.
and they die young. Everybody else moves on. Some people don't even come to their burials. If you understand?
I also find it interesting sometimes when these family members that collect, like they're still collecting decades
Mm.
on. Like it's
Oh
not like
yeah.
an
I
emergency.
mean,
Like
what's that scripture? I think is it Proverbs or something that talks about there are three things that never say enough. I don't remember how many.
I'm
Let's
going
say
to
it's
find it.
three, Sha. There should be
Yeah.
four. The fourth one should be not in-laws. Family
Oh,
members that never say enough. It
never
talks about the
never say
grave.
bro.
I forget the scripture that never say enough. The grave is one
Mm-hmm.
of them. Family
Mm-hmm.
members that never say enough should be another. You understand? If I could
Yeah.
make my fix it finance international version, but yes.
Honestly, it
So
would be there. I found the Bible verse, by the way. It's Proverbs. I don't know. Proverbs 30, 15 to 17. There are three things that are never satisfied, four that never say enough: the grave, the barren womb, land which is never satisfied with water and fire. Yes, we should add in laws, the
and number
fourth one.
5, family members that never say
Family
enough.
member.
You
Yes, okay.
understand?
Yeah.
So personally, what we did that really worked for us, and again, this is what I say: you need to take whatever it is you're learning, right, and
Mm-hmm.
apply it to yourself. Because my
Yeah.
husband and I are both naturally generous people. We're the kind
Mm.
of people that will, for lack of a better word, empty our bank accounts and give to someone. I remember one time,
Okay.
this was before we got married. A friend called that she needed money, and I
Mhm.
took everything in my account. I gave it to her. And my husband said, you really shouldn't do this because, oh no, what was it? I don't remember how no, I'm paraphrasing. Anyways, the long and short of it, I ended up needing that exact amount at the end of the month to balance my rent.
Oh
And I
my
just
God.
felt very silly, you understand, afterwards.
Wow.
So of course, we've matured, we've learned that lesson. So one of the things
Yeah.
we do that works for us is we have a line item for family members.
In your budget.
Depending on the season, yes, in our budget, depending on the season we're in. So let's say we're in a season where we're building. For
Mm-hmm.
example, we have a project we're working on. We need funds to go towards this. That line will shrink. Let's say we're in
Mm.
a season of, no projects we're working on. It's just regular season of just regular savings. The line
Mhm.
will be beefed up a bit. That line is on a first come, first serve basis. Whoever
Mm.
calls first, second, or third, depending on what they need, we give. Once that line is done, it is completely done. Doesn't
Mm.
matter who you are in the family, it's done.
Mm.
Now, before my father passed away, because my father was he had a kidney transplant. So health
Mm.
wise, I knew his health was one of those things that if we needed funds, we needed funds right away. So we
Right.
had a special, just fund of
That's
God
so wise.
forbid daddy calls.
Yeah.
Right? That one was for daddy. If you are not
Mm.
daddy, we don't know you.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
understand? And then
Yeah.
of course I had money that I was sending to my dad every month
Okay.
because that's both my husband's parents have passed away. You understand? And
Oh.
I asked my husband, I'm gonna be sending this to my parents. Do you want something equally?
To
Because
send to
he's
someone
entitled to
that you
that.
honor. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's entitled to that because
That
even
is
though
so
his parents
wise.
are not here. And he was like,
Yeah.
no, he doesn't want that. He likes the line item that we do. You
Okay.
understand? So at that time, I had my brother was in school, so he might call and say, oh, he needs this, he needs that. So
Right.
again, that was how we planned. So when that money finished, because again, every single dollar had an assignment. So I didn't even feel
Love
bad
that.
if somebody called.
Because if you
Yeah,
don't
if
assign
somebody
the
called,
dollar to something, it
yeah,
will run away. Yes.
exactly. Because if somebody calls now, I don't even feel bad because I'm like, okay, what should I do? Not pay my mortgage because you need money. It's not gonna happen. So I really don't have is I don't have. You
Yeah.
understand? So you need to
Yeah.
also be okay saying no. And it
Mm-hmm.
comes with maturity. Because it's not necessarily
Mm-hmm.
easy saying no to people you love and care about,
Absolutely.
right? But you have to be strategic. You understand? So if you have like things like parents and whatnot, I think they should have their own category because we're big believers in honoring our parents.
Yeah.
So have the line item for honoring your parents. And if your
Mhm.
parents are the only people you take care of, lucky you. However, if you're one of those people that your uncles know you're in Canada, your
Yeah.
aunties, they know you are here,
Yeah.
your friends from university,
Yeah.
you understand, they know you are here, then you may have
Yeah.
other problems. So just make sure you set a line item or a budget, and you know that once
Mm-hmm.
that money finishes, it's just
It's
done.
gone. That's so good. Thank you for that. I like the idea of assigning, giving dollar names and telling them where to go
Yes,
essentially. If not, you just find out that things have gone
they'll
elsewhere.
just be flying away. You
Yeah, and
wake up
even
and
just
you're like,
where has everything gone?
mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the idea of, knowing your dad's unique situation at the time, like it is what it is. If money
Yep.
if he needs money, it would be very silly for somebody's parents to be dying and you're saying, sorry, my budget has finished.
Yeah,
Like
I don't have. You understand? My budget has finished. Can you
yeah,
imagine?
and at that point, it's not really because you knew that it was an ongoing situation, health situation. It's not really an emergency, so you should wisdom dictated
Exactly.
that you set money aside. So that is very good. Thank you for highlighting that example.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I didn't really have this, but I just thought about it as you were speaking. Well, one other aspect is old age and like budgeting for parents getting older, and whether that means are you going to, I guess it's the same thing. If you're going to be having to fund them in their older age, having a budget for that, if you're going to have them moving with you or you have to rent a place for them, I don't
Mm-hmm.
even know. Start thinking about it as well. But maybe
Yeah.
we'll get there as we move into this part. Talk to us about life insurance. What is it? Why is it important? And then for ourselves and also for parents, like how
Mm.
do you have these conversations with them? Maybe those are two questions. What is life insurance and why is it important?
So at its very basic form, life insurance is, funds, for example, that protects the people you love, if anything
Hmm.
were to happen to you as a person. So life insurance is not necessarily for you, because a lot of
Hmm.
people confuse that. It's for the people you quote unquote leave behind. So if you have
Right.
people that you love that you're going to be leaving behind,
Hmm.
especially if anything were to happen to you, then you
Right.
definitely want to have life insurance,
Yeah.
right? And when I say leave behind, if you're going to be leaving them behind, especially with things like a mortgage, debt,
Mm.
or just a certain lifestyle they are used to because you're around. So, for example, it's possible you don't have debts, you've paid off your mortgage, but
Right.
because you're a multi-millionaire, your family is used to, living large, and you want to make sure they can maintain that lifestyle when you go. That's part
Hmm.
of why you have life insurance. So,
Hmm.
life insurance is basically about protecting the ones you love if anything were to happen to you.
Okay. And then, so who should have life insurance then? At what age should you start considering getting life insurance?
Um, you should consider getting life insurance, like I said, the moment you have someone that depends on your income,
Okay.
right? So, for example, someone like myself, I got my first life insurance policy when I was 18. I know, crazy.
Ooh.
And again, most of the reason was because my dad had started having his health issues, and I just felt okay. If anything were to happen to, God forbid, me, because I'm the
Hmm.
firstborn, right?
Oh,
Like on my
first
life
one,
insurance
yes.
policy, it was my siblings that were
Mhm.
the beneficiaries. So I was like,
Because,
okay, at the
okay.
worst case, because I was already getting to the point where I was going to start working. Because I always, my dad used to joke, he used to be like, "You're part of my retirement plan, so you better pay attention in school." You understand? He was
Yeah.
awesome in that way.
Yeah.
But yes, so like I had a life insurance policy. It was a small
Mhm.
policy. It was like 100,000. But my siblings were on there because in my mind I was like, okay, if anything were to happen to me, God forbid, I'll be able to
Mm-hmm.
help my parents or at least help my siblings in the fact that they will
Mm-hmm.
be able to finish school. You
Mm.
understand?
Yeah.
Now, as lovely as that sentiment is, you can choose to do that if you want to. However, if you don't have those commitments, you are under no obligation to get life insurance. If,
Right.
for example, your parents say depend on your income, right? Then you want to get a policy and possibly name them as the beneficiaries. Now, when you get married, all that changes because now your nuclear family becomes your number one priority, right? So your spouse, your children, right?
Mm-hmm.
And basically none of that.
Yeah.
It's the ball is really in your court, so that's just me making a joke. But
No, it's
yes,
honestly
so
very interesting that your family of origin becomes your extended family when you get married. I didn't deep it until like a month later. I was like, what? So my mom is now my extended family. Anyways,
yeah,
yeah.
she's your extended family the moment you get married. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you always want to make sure that the life insurance you get can cover like I mentioned any potential debts you might be leaving behind, and then of
Mm-hmm.
course to enable those like to replace your income. So for example, like we mentioned, a lot of the people in our generation are two income households,
Yeah.
right? So God forbid if one person goes away, that income is now missing from that household and they've been
Yeah.
living and planning based on two
Yeah.
incomes,
Yeah.
so you want to make sure that the life insurance policy is enough to replace that income. God
Yeah.
forbid anything were to happen. Now, I
Yeah.
know a lot of people. So, for example, if let's say the husband is making 100,000, the wife is making 100,000, each of them
Mm-hmm.
gets a policy of $1 million on
Mm-hmm.
themselves. If
Mm-hmm.
anything happens to either person, you invest the 1 million. Let's say it makes on average 6 to 10% a year. Now you've replaced fully or nearly replaced that person's income, right?
Hmm.
So that's part of how it works.
Is that what
Does
people
that
do?
answer your
Invest the
question?
money? Yes, very much so.
Well, again, it's to replace the income. There are different ways. Some people can decide, you know what, they're going to take the bulk 1 million, pay off the mortgage, pay this,
That's what
pay
I thought
that,
people
and
would do.
whatever's
Yeah.
left. Yes,
Okay.
it's completely up to
Up
the
to you.
person that's being left behind, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can specify what you want it to be used for, how you want it
Mm-hmm.
to be used. Again, that's when you get into the will section of things. But yes, again, if you want to replace the income specifically, you could do it that way instead. So
Mm-hmm.
there are different ways. Once you get to that point, it's always advisable to sit down with a financial planner or, an estate expert, someone that can actually walk you through what that
Yeah.
process looks like.
Yeah. And life insurance, we've mentioned this big amount, 100,000, 1 million, but you're not paying that. Like the amount you're paying monthly towards it is not that much. Maybe like
Yes.
60, 80, $100 that you
Depending
pay every
on
month, your
Well, you don't
situation.
even have to pay it every month. You can pay it annually because it's really cheap. Again, there are different types of insurance, right? There's term life insurance, whole life insurance, universal
Mm-hmm.
life. I usually always recommend term life insurance. And keep in mind, I've had all the types of insurance, so you can ask me questions. I've had all of
Okay.
them, universal life, you
Why?
understand? So I know all the way for lack of a better word, do not benefit you. Term life
Okay.
insurance is nice and simple. It
Okay.
covers you for a term, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years,
Mm-hmm.
while you're in your, for lack of a better word, income building years, right? Because when you
Okay.
get to a certain point, your
Oh.
estate should have your estate should have ballooned enough, grown enough that you don't necessarily need life insurance again. That even if you do need life insurance at that point, it's more for tax planning, estate planning purposes, which that's another
Mm-hmm.
topic. But for the most part, term life insurance, let's say you get a basic 20-year policy at the age of 30, it's going to cover you till you're 50, right?
Yeah.
Let's say you get half a million or $1 million, you're paying anywhere from, you're paying at least less than $100 for either the 500 or the 1 million policy. So a lot
Mm.
of people, so I'll give an example for my husband and I. We both got ours when, how many years ago now? 7 years ago now? 6 years ago?
Have you been married that
Right.
long?
And I think together, not that long, together, both of our life insurance policies cost less than $600 a year.
I was about to say if it was a month, I was about to like, okay,
No, less than
okay,
six hundred
yeah.
dollars for the whole year.
Well, that's not
And they're
bad at
both
all.
term policies, 20-year
Mm.
term policies. So it's not expensive at all for literally the price of a box of pizza or, your usual skip the dishes weekly order.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
can
yeah.
get life insurance. And it just makes sure that the person you leave behind is well taken
It's
care of.
covered.
Or at least they will not be, because some of the stories and some of the things I've seen, for
Yes.
example, the spouse being forced out of the house in less than 60 days because they've missed a payment or two.
When
Or,
you're still
God
mourning.
forbid,
Yeah.
yeah, like it's a lot. And there's also been other stories that you hear. For example, one of the ones I really like, I think I heard this on Dave Ramsey's podcast, I believe, or I read it in a book. Some
Mm-hmm.
lady, you know, the guy got life insurance, thankfully. She got pregnant, and I think the month after she gave birth, he died.
Gosh.
Right? But thankfully, he had
Wow.
a policy of about $600,000 on himself. Their
Mm-hmm.
mortgage was not that much, so she just took that money, paid off the mortgage, and she took the year off. Like,
Hmm.
she was just like,
It's just
okay, I need to chill. Young
after all,
marriage,
that
you
would have been
understand?
maternity. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, it's in the US, so they don't have maternity leave of 1 year.
I know they
But
don't.
you know what I mean? It gave her
Yeah.
the option to be able to take that time off, really regroup, see what she wants to do with the rest of her life. Like, because it's not easy, especially when you're in mourning. You understand to be
Hmm.
thinking, you need to pay mortgage, you need to pay this, you need to pay that.
Yeah.
Life doesn't stop because you're in mourning. Believe me, I know.
Yeah. That is so good. I was going to ask about wheels and other things, but actually, I'm more interested in something you talked about because you said how, like, your income earning years are like the ones like when you're still kind of young. What is RRSP like for job hoppers? Like, how are you
Mm,
thinking about, like, does it when you're changing companies? Um what does that mean for your RRSP? And I think RRSP is retirement savings plan, something like that in Canada at
registered
least.
retirement savings plan, yeah.
Registered.
So it doesn't really, job hopping doesn't affect your RRSP.
It
However,
doesn't. Okay.
no, it doesn't. What you want to do is make sure you carry your RRSP with you whenever you leave a job. So, for example, let's assume I'll use myself as an example. So, a previous job I was working in, they did RRSP matching, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, where you put in, I don't know, 3%, 2%, 6%, they will match it for you.
Mm-hmm.
So, when I was leaving the job, I got a brochure from the company and I rolled over the RRSP into a personal, like my own. So, took it out of the group account, which is the
Mm-hmm.
company, and rolled it into my own personal RRSP account. So one of the things I always remind people, whenever you leave a job or you job hop, just carry all the things that they've given you. Don't leave it behind. So, for example, let's say you have a World Simple RRSP account. Simply log into your Wealth Simple account and tell them, please, in this account here, I have an RRSP, move it into my RRSP here. So every time you leave a job, just always do that. Something like that, you understand? So it doesn't affect, job hopping doesn't affect your RRSP at all. It just, you don't, just make sure you don't leave anything behind in that job.
What happens if you've forgotten to leave? If you've left it behind, does the money vanish?
No, it doesn't. The money is still there, but you want to make sure you pick up the phone and, for example, let's say your company's benefits was through Manulife
Mm-hmm.
or Canada Life, or which
Mm-hmm.
other one did they have? Blue Cross,
Sound
or
like
there are
yeah.
different options. Pick up the phone, call them, give them your name. If you still have the paper copy of what you received when you first signed up, you should have your account number and whatnot, and just ask about it. Ask for a
Okay.
statement and then roll it over into a new RRSP. Or if you like how it's performing over there, then you can keep it there and it will just be in your personal name. But most companies nowadays, they usually send you information saying, hey, we see that you're leaving. What do you want to do with this money?
Makes sense.
Hmm.
Okay. Well, this has been so helpful, and thank you for everything you've shared with me and with the people, and practical things to be thinking through, whether it's with your personal finances, with your relationship, or with your family members. What else, when you think about the topics that people come to you for the most, what are like some of the top things people ask you about? And like, do you have resources about those things?
I get a variety of questions. I would say the one I've been getting a lot about now is mostly around, buying a home and like
Yeah.
mortgages and whatnot.
I think I might
Just
bring
people
you that.
wondering
Yeah.
just people wondering what that's about, how the process works. Like I was talking to someone the other day and she had no clue that you bought a house before it was even built. So she had seen a development she really liked, and she was waiting for
Mhm.
them to build it. By the time they were done building it, she went and they were like, ah, there's only one left. And she's like, wait, nobody told me that you have to, So
Yeah.
little things like that, I think, is one of the main things I've been answering a lot of questions on. And then student loans,
True.
just people wanting to
True.
know what to do with it, especially now that the government is really lax on their rules and stuff. Should I still pay
Mhm.
off my student loan? Should I not?
Right.
And then a lot of newcomers asking questions around just,
Mhm.
credit cards and RRSPs and TFSAs and how they work, and, just wanting to really understand money in Canada. They get
Mhm.
a call from someone saying, this thing is the best thing since sliced bread. Come and sign up. And I'm like,
Yeah.
don't do yourself.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Vicky,
Yeah.
that's very helpful. And I think I might just bring you back to talk about the home buying one specifically, and maybe bring your realtor as well. There's this couple I have my eyes on in the US, but like the US is
Mm,
just so different from Canada in terms
it
of
is.
the cost of property. I watched one of their videos. It's a $6,000 house. I was like, hmm?
Oh, sometimes you see houses in the States, like
I
you
know.
don't even compare. For your peace of mind, don't do it because it'll just
Yeah.
break your heart. You see $400,000 house in the US,
Yeah.
mansion, 400,000 in Canada, condo.
I know. It's kind of wild.
So,
So
yeah.
I think we'll have a whole session about that. Perhaps talk about bring a realtor, bring people that have experience with buying, and just
Mhm.
figure it out. But this has been so helpful, Fikayo. Where can people find
Yeah.
you and support your work or learn more about finances from you?
YouTube and Instagram, Fix It Finance. That's the best place. And I'm
Okay.
usually really good at answering questions. So I do get, even though I've not been posting, people have not stopped asking me
Oh
questions,
yeah, that's
which I
good. Yeah.
find kind of comfy. Yeah, like I get DMs and then I get emails or,
Well, it means they
people
trust
responding
you.
to the,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, because I think one of the things that, just from a brand perspective that I bring is just one, I've lived through it.
Yes.
Two, I'm living through it. And
Yeah.
three, I'm what can I don't have reason to lie to you because I've been there.
You just
I
yeah.
can answer.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I would tell you straight up if I don't know, and I would tell you
Yeah.
exactly what, like some of the experiences
Mm-hmm.
and at least some of the things I've seen. Again, because of all that reading and research and whatnot, you just see so
Mm-hmm.
many examples and you're just able to like glean from, what you've heard or what you've learned. So, yeah. So I think, if you want to find me, Fix It Finance on YouTube, on Instagram as well. And yeah, go from there.
Do you have a money philosophy? Like this is what to do with money or anything like that?
I do. One of the main money philosophies I have is it's not about how much you make, it's about how well you manage what you make. Because
Okay.
I think I used to be of the opinion that I couldn't wait to start making $100,000, or
You
I
don't
couldn't wait
even
to
make a
start
hundred
making.
thousand dollars when you make $100,000.
Exactly. Like, I can't wait to start making $25 an hour, $50
Yeah,
an hour, hundred
yeah,
dollars an hour before
yeah.
I will be able to, like really live the life I want in Canada. And that was a big
Mm-hmm.
fat lie. Like when my husband and I were making less than 100,000, we were
Mm-hmm.
thriving,
Mm-hmm.
and doing well. So
Yeah.
that really taught me, that season really, really taught me it's not about how much you make, it's about how well you manage what you make. Because you see people that are making, you have like their top line for their income
Mm-hmm.
earning years is 60,000, yet they retire millionaires. Yeah, husband and
Interesting.
wife. You see, both of them
Wow.
teachers. I think one, the max they made is 40 in a year, the wife 35 or something like that.
Right.
Yeah,
So to say back, it's not how much you make, it's what?
it's not about how much you make, it's how well you manage what you make,
It's how well you
you
measure
know?
it.
Because
Wow.
if you
And
look
that
at the story of the talents in the Bible, right, the guy
mm-hmm.
with the five and the guy with two, it really didn't matter how much they had. They managed what they had well, and they got
Mm-hmm.
rewarded regardless.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? So the
Yeah.
reward is sure. So long as you manage what you make well, the reward is sure. So the financial rewards are sure. Whether you're investing 1,000 a month or you're investing 100 a month, that if you have that consistency and you keep at it for
Yes.
whatever time frame you're doing, of course,
Yeah.
if you have the opportunity to make more, take that opportunity. If you have the
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to spend less, take that
Yeah.
opportunity. But for the most part, it's not about how much you make. It's about how well you manage it. So whether you're making $20 an hour, $15 an hour, or you're making $45 an hour, $110 an hour, if you manage it anyhow, you will reap those rewards. If you manage it well,
Anyhow.
you will reap those rewards. Hmm.
Amazing. Vikaya, thank you so much for your time. It's been so great speaking with you. Thank you for sharing generously with us. I know that people
Yeah.
will be encouraged and motivated to take steps to manage their finances better. And if you have not followed Fikayo at Fix It Finance, you should go check it out. That interview with their Jais is on YouTube. I think you should just listen to it. It's interesting to
Yeah.
see how different people manage their money and how they've come to a better place now. Thank you for your time today, Fikayo. It's been great chatting with you.
Thank you. Thank you. Maybe I'll have you and your husband next
Oh, of course,
on
we'll
the
be very
journey
happy
so
to.
far.